Hello folks, and welcome to another video. I hope this one does find you well and enjoying your simming. Got a first impressions video for you today. Yes, another one. I hope you don't mind. And if you do mind, there are a plethora of other flight simulation channels that you might want to avail yourself of, folks. You won't offend me at all. But if you're interested in a first impressions look at this aircraft on your screen, being the Piper Warrior 2 by Just Flight, flown by an old fella who has a bit of IRL time in this particular type, and the Cherokee series more broadly. I think the Cherokees probably represented the bulk of my IRL hours, I would suspect. I don't know, I don't have my logbook. But from what I can piece together from this fragmented memory of mine, I think Cherokees represented the bulk of my hours. And I have a particular fondness for the Warrior because, well, the Warrior and we go back a fair way. I got my PPL, I did my navigation training element of the PPL, private pilot license. If there's anyone who needs an explanation. PPL. Yeah, my navigation training was done in the Warrior, and I kind of was a bit of a black sheep in the flying school that I went to. Most of the other guys seemed to be taking the Cessna route, so they were flying the two-seater Cessnas for their what we used to call GFPT, General Flying Progress Test, sort of the first half of the PPL, where you kind of learn to, handle the aircraft and without actually going anywhere. And then for the navigation exercise, you sort of graduate to a larger aeroplane, a four-seater. And at the flying school that I did my PPL at, we had a choice between a whole bunch of Cessnas or one Warrior. And old mate here liked the look of the Warrior, and it was a bloody good choice because I loved that thing. It looked a bit like the one on your screen, actually, the red, the yellow. I'll try and find a photo actually of the one that I flew most of my PPL time in. I'll see if it's still around. But yeah, I've got a real soft spot in my heart for the Warrior. I wanted to pick this up well before now, but when this was released, I think 2 or 3 years ago, I was pretty disappointed by what I saw in videos. Yeah, and I thought, I'm disappointed enough not to engage with it, despite the fact that I really would like to sort of reacquaint myself with the Warrior. Well, 2 or 3 years have passed, and this thing's got an update recently, an update that would suggest that the ground handling's been improved. Now, the ground handling in this thing was like the other Just Flight Pipers, the Arrows that I also own. There's something screwy with the ground handling. But this one's received an update. Hopefully it's better. And I thought I'd give it a chance, particularly considering it's on sale at the moment. I've splurged here. I bought myself a Chrissy present because, bloody hell, no one else is going to. So, 30% off at the moment over at Just Flight. I thought, yeah, even with the horrific exchange rate between the US dollar and the Aussie at the moment, I thought, yeah, now's the time. Updated, it's on special. I'm feeling nostalgic. Let's do it. So, first impressions of what we're going to do here, folks. And I thought I'd recreate a flight that I did, one of the few that I actually sort of remember doing, despite the fact that I flew a whole bunch of sorties in this thing. Yeah, a really memorable flight that I remember parts of. This will make more sense as we go through it, folks. But I'll use that as sort of the backdrop for a first impressions look at the aircraft. First impressions, genuine first impressions. Haven't flown it here in the sim. I'll give you my perspective from what I can remember from my real life experience. I was quite familiar with these things at one point in the distant past, and yeah, if you're interested in that, stick around. And just before we jump inside and actually go flying, I thought I'd just kind of orientate myself, set the scene here, primarily for my own benefit, but also for you, the viewing audience. This flight is going to take place between Camden, which is sort of to the southwest of Sydney, and GA Airport, southwest of Sydney. And we're going to end up in a really interesting place called Temora. It's a great aircraft museum out at Temora, or at least I think it still exists. Probably should have done a little bit of research and fired up the website. Or have a look at the website. If it does still exist, you're going to see it during the course of this flight, folks. So Camden to Temora. Now Camden is one of the airports that I flew out of when I was living in Sydney after I completed my PPL, moved down to Sydney for work. Flew out of Camden, Bankstown, and also Hoxton Park, which I remember sort of being in that region. Am I right? Hoxton Park, a little strip that since has been swallowed up by development. But Hoxton Park had some what we used to call ultralights back in the day, and I flew ultralights out of Hoxton. But Camden was probably my favourite place to fly out of. The only downside to Camden was it was a really long way from where I lived, and it wasn't unusual to spend sort of 2 hours getting there in the car in order to go flying for an hour. But that's how committed I was. That's how dedicated I was to developing my flying skill, and I had the disease pretty bad. Flying was a big part of my life, and still is, just in the virtual sense rather than the real life sense, and I feel very grateful that I'm able to share it with you in some form via this channel. So Camden across to Temora. Now I don't have the original flight plan. I don't remember exactly what the route was. There was some visual sort of reference points. I've picked a couple out of my arse. There's a mine, or what's it called? Wallandilly washery here that we're going to use sort of for our first leg, and then we track over the top of Gerong, little town of Gerong. And I remember there was an airport en route that we used. I don't remember it being Young. I don't remember being Young. Oh, I cracked myself up, folks. But I'm going to use Young because it's kind of on the way, and then into Temora. Now this flight IRL took place during the winter months. Fantastic flying conditions that I recall, and I did this flight sharing the experience with a guy from the UK whose name I cannot remember. I can't exactly remember how we came to connect, although it must have been via the internet somehow. I think he was here on holiday from the UK and wanted to do a bit of flying. He had his PPL, and we did this flight together. A day trip out to Temora, to the Aviation Museum out here, which is, yeah, a fantastic, it was such a great experience this day. We had a great flight out there, great experience at the museum. It was nice to share it with a fellow aviator. We were perfect strangers. We haven't spoken since. I can't remember his name. I'm sorry. If you happen to be watching this, mate, um, I'm sorry, but I remember that you enjoyed it, and that's the most important memory to have when people enjoy stuff, and that's what I always got a kick out of in my IRL flying career was seeing people enjoy the experience. So that's what we're going to do, folks. Camden to Temora should take us probably 2 hours or so, and I'll use that flight as an opportunity to explore this aircraft and give you my first impressions of same. And welcome on board, folks. I do appreciate that the introduction of this video has probably taken about 5 times as long as what it should have, but I just go where the universe takes me, where my memory takes me, and that's how it works. If you've been around this channel for a while, you'll understand. And if you have listened to the full introduction up until this point, thank you. Don't mind that guy in the back. He keeps opening and closing the door, much to my annoyance. That's you can thank FS Realistic Pro for that guy. Anyway, the VC of the Warrior looks very much like the Arrow series, funnily enough. Cherokee series. Probably saved themselves a whole bunch of development time by, you know, reusing assets. But IRL, the Cherokee series, did have a lot of consistency across the different variants, and this looks exactly like the Warriors that I used to fly, except for the glass bit. We didn't have that. We had old school radios. They weren't even digital. We definitely didn't have an autopilot in the Warrior. We did in the Arrows, rudimentary autopilot. But yeah, the rest of it, this brings back memories. This feels like home to me. Funny that, I just felt immediately at home in the Warrior, first time I jumped in. Unlike some of the other aircraft that I flew for, like early in my PPL flying Cessnas, and I never really felt the same. I got into a Warrior and it was just like, this is where I belong. Yeah. Anyway, they've done a reasonable job, I think, Just Flight, in terms of their texturing and stuff. Just Flight have their style of texturing, and it's okay. I mean, they've got some. This was released a few years ago, and I think that since then, other developers have kind of kicked it up a notch. But it's pretty good. It's good enough for me, right? Is what I will say. The panel kind of, it's a bit. How would I describe it? It doesn't really have a great deal of character for mine. Like, I'd love one that's really worn, and maybe there is a mod that makes this thing look like the real ones look. They were built in the late 70s, and they've seen some shit, particularly if they are in a training fleet. These interiors, that's bloody authentic, I've got to say. They're just bloody awful to look at. I'd have passengers, they'd be excited, right, walking to the aircraft, right? They'd be excited at this point. They'd walk up to the aircraft, oh yeah, that looks like an aeroplane, yeah. And they were generally clean on the outside, and like, yeah, that's good. And then they'd jump inside, and they'd see this interior, and they'd be like, oh my God. And there was often stains, and there was quite often a smell. And if you've ever flown a lighty IRL, particularly one that is a few decades old, you'll know what the smell is. Kind of a combination of, I don't know, avgas and stale farts. You know what I mean? It's got a lingering kind of odor to it, and yeah, the packs had sort of their initial excitement had kind of go, kind of wear away by the time they got inside. And then they'd look at the panel and there was no fancy stuff. It was just all old school steamy gauges, and we're like, geez, this isn't what I expected. And then, of course, we go flying, and then that experience flying with the old fella, and yeah, that initial excitement wore off pretty quickly. Not really. Not really. For the most part, I was very fortunate to have passengers that enjoyed themselves. It meant so much to me to share this with people. I was, really lucky to have a bunch of people that wanted to go flying and wanted to share the cost as well, which helped me to, I think, do more flying than I would have otherwise done, because it was bloody expensive. I know it's incredibly expensive now, but even back then, it was hard to find the coin to go flying. So it was nice to have passengers to share the cost. Anyway, folks, that's back inside. That is the VC for what it's worth. I think it's decent. I'm going to get us started and on our way across to Temora. Alright, so we're at the holds, runway 06 here at Camden. I've got to say, the ground handling during the taxi, I didn't record it, but it hasn't thrilled me, folks. It's not, I don't remember it being that hard to taxi a Warrior, as hard as it is here in the sim. Now, what is it trying to do? I do not have... What on earth is it trying to do? You can see I've got full left rudder in, and it wants to point into the wind. It's like there is no friction or something. This is truly bizarre. The update was meant to fix ground handling. This is bizarre. Full left boot is what I've got in, and we're shimming around to the right. Once I introduce some more juicy, we start to turn left. That is weird. This does not bode well. I was really hopeful that this thing, it's just so finicky to taxi compared to the real thing. It's just a lot more solid on the ground. We don't have a strong breeze. You certainly couldn't do that either. Swing it around so easily. Let's see what it's like during the takeoff roll. I'll just bring my heading bug around. We'll zoom out the map. We've sort of got a left-hand turn towards our first waypoint. We'll go altitude reporting. Just make sure we've got local baro set. We do. We're pointed straight into the wind, folks. Let's see how we go. Bring that juicy in. It sounds all right. I'll give them that. Alright, power set. We're at a bit of right boot. Airspeed's alive. A lot of right boot. A lot of right boot. There's 70. We'll kind of rotate about there. Yeah, righto. Probably rotated a little bit late. 79 best rate. Keep the right boot in. Yeah, that wasn't too bad during the takeoff roll. We'll just retrim for 80. Climb up to about, it's about 700 feet. You make the left turn at Camden. Round to the left we go. Keep that power in. You should get closer to about 1,000 feet a minute if you're climbing at best rate. Only got 2 on board. We'll just come all the way around. sort of had about 240, so on the reciprocal, kind of downwind, up through 1,000. Yeah, so you're getting about 1,000 feet a minute at best rate, close enough. Yeah, so the flight handling so far is okay, the sounds are alright. Alright, so we're up through 7.5, we've just passed that that mine, that washery. We're on track, beautiful, it represents so well in this simulator. Lucky folks. Everything going okay in flight. We're climbing out at 80. Georgie's in command. He's holding our navigation track. We are going to fight a bit of a headwind up here at going to cruise at 8.5. That's what we cruised out at. I remember that because the guy that I flew with from the UK was quite surprised, and I think a little concerned, that we were planning, not only did we plan to fly at 8.5, we actually did fly at 8.5, because he had never been above 4.5, is what I remember him telling me. I'm guessing that was weather or airspace or a combination of both in the UK. You never actually get up high. Here in Australia, heading west, weather permitting and airspace permitting, we'd planned 6.5 or 8.5, these longer legs. Yeah, so we got him high. Alright, we're settled into the cruise at 8,500. Georgie is in command. It is a fairly rudimentary autopilot here, so we don't have altitude holds. Not a complaint, just an observation. We do have navigation holds, so he's holding the magenta quite well. We're tazzing at about, looks like about 112. We used to plan 110, I think, in the Warrior, from memory. So yeah, that's kind of within a reasonable expectation for the numbers. It sounds like a Warrior. It pretty much feels like one in the air. It's just that that ground handling stuff seems really screwy for mine. Although during the takeoff roll it was okay. It's just that taxiing bit that was kind of weird. Anyway, first impression for what it's worth, folks. We are a long way from Temora. In the next segment, I'll fire up a web browser and introduce you to the Temora Aviation Museum. And as promised, here is the Temora Aviation Museum, or at least the website of the Temora Aviation Museum. Yeah, it's an impressive website, and it's an impressive place to visit. Opening hours are 10 AM to 4 PM every day, excluding the public holidays. They've got simulators now. I'm pretty sure they didn't have simulators when I was there. The legendary Spitfire, Mustang or Kitty Hawk, are you joking? Full motion Warbird simulators. I wonder what platforms they use for their sims. They've got the Redbird simulators. Where were you way back when? How much does it cost? So 30-minute simulation experience. It's an 8-minute video brief, flight instructions from an instructor, and you get admission to the museum. So 30 minutes to fly a Spitfire simulator, $69. That sounds pretty bloody reasonable. 60 minutes, $100. So I'm guessing the Spitfire's the most popular one, eh? Or is it the best one? That's why it's the most expensive. Cessna 172. Are you kidding? Why the hell? I'm going to offend a Cessna 172 fanboy here, but why the hell would you fly to Temora or go to Temora Aviation Museum and want to fly a Cessna 172 simulator when you've got the Spitfire, the Mustang, or the Kitty Hawk on offer? Give me a break. You can do it with your mates. Minimum 3, but up to... Oh, folks. I had no idea. I'm loving this place. Again. I wouldn't have left. I would have got an old mate from the UK to do the flight back to Camden on his own. I may have relocated permanently out to Temora. How good is this? Should we have a look at what else you can do? Yeah, let's do it. So how to get there, driving, flying. So driving probably from Sydney, righto. Take the Hume, follow the signs. It doesn't say how long it is. It's a fair old hike out there, eh? From Canberra, from Melbourne and from Wagga. There it is. Flying. How do you get out there? Sydney to Wagga. You've got to drive from Wagga. And then you will need to rent a car to Temora. Yeah, no scheduled services out to there. Flying your own aircraft, which is kind of what we did. Well, rented an aircraft. It's a new taxiway. Da 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 da. Yep. I'm sure old mate from the UK checked all the NOTAMs. I left that for him. Yep. There we go. So we've got a 2,000 metre sealed strip, main strip, then a couple of crossies. Does not charge landing fees. How good's that? Bloody hell, this has got me wanting to make this flight again. It's not going to be possible. Have a look at that. That's on a flying day. Look at that. Exhibits, the aircraft collection. Folks, forgive my enthusiasm here. I'm rediscovering this after however many years it's been. They've got a Boomerang, a Wirraway, a Dragonfly, a Bird Dog, a Cessna 028. That looks like a... What the hell is that? That looks like a 337. With, yeah, righto. Vampire, Tiger Moth, Canberra, Meteor, Hudson, Sabre, STM, Spitty, I remember that, the Grey Nurse, and the other one, yeah, they had two, yeah. Folks, do yourself a favour. If you have the opportunity, if life is kind to you, and the universe permits, get yourself out to Temora. You won't regret it. So we have commenced our descent. Temora is about 20 miles ahead of us at this time. We've had a decent old headwind for the majority of our journey. You've been flying for about an hour and a half or so, and really enjoyed it. Actually, it's been a nice trip down memory lane. The experience has helped me to remember more about this particular adventure, and also some of my other adventures and other passengers that joined me on those adventures. So the power of simulation to trigger some really pleasant memories, I must say. And I want to thank you, viewing audience. If you're still with me at this point, you're hearing these words at this time. Thanks for joining me. Thanks for allowing me to share a memory with you, as I mentioned earlier in the video. It was always the enjoyment of other people that gave me the biggest buzz when I was was flying, and I hope that these videos provide you with some level of enjoyment, escape from a reality that is more unreal by the day, it seems. Anyway, folks, I will get us set up for our approach. I think we're going to land 3-6 at Temora. The wind is sort of coming out of the northwest, and yeah, I think 3-6 is an appropriate choice. So I'll see you for the concluding stages. All right, we're on a right base, runway 36. The wind has shifted around to a northerly, so we've made a good choice here, Kingy. You've been very quiet, mate. Until now. Thanks for that. Nice to have your company, regardless of volume level. Here we go, folks. Temora ahoy. Turning final, runway 36 here at Temora. Flaps down. Oh, that pitch up is quite significant. Let's try and make this half decent. Actually flown this aeroplane IRL, no excuses. We're a little quick on the approach. We'll be approaching around about 70 odd, currently at 80. Custom freeware airport here, folks. I'll be linked to it in the description. Some of the aircraft models there, lovely. Come off that juicy, right off the juicy, and hold it off a bit. A little bit high on the flare, holding it off, bleeding that speed, holding it off, holding it off, holding it off. She wants to float. Oh, she's on. Here we go. On the center line. We got there eventually, folks. Welcome to Temora. As we slip slide over the bloody runway. Welcome to Temora, folks, and thank you for your company in another video. Your support is always appreciated. I'll just backtrack back here towards where I saw those really cool looking aeroplanes, like that. Actually, we might taxi. I'll give you a look at them. Can we do that? You got a couple of minutes? I don't know how long this video has been. It feels like this could be one of the longer ones here on the channel. We'll just taxi back. I just want to have a look. Here we go. We'll get ourselves amongst some cool aeroplanes here. Look at that, folks. Hey, how cool is that? Now, it looks like it's set up. It does. Oh, this is well done. Custom freeware. Impressive. Have a look at that. All the people are modelled. We've got the best seats in the house right here. You know, they've all come to see those warbirds, but we're giving them an extra thrill by planting a Piper Warrior right up against the fence. There we go. We'll just set the parking brake here. Kill the engine. Get rid of that noise. Hey, nice work. Whoever you are, the developer of this one. Very, very nice. Folks, thanks for your company. Until we next meet, you stay well. Enjoy your simming. And bye for now.